Hello, hello, everybody. Get started here in a few minutes. How are you doing today, Tom?
I am great. Thank you, Benson. How are you?
Doing amazing.
Fantastic.
So we're using this platform right here. It's called Restream. If anyone's interested, it's a competitor to StreamYard. It's got
Right.
a lot more functionality. Still learning it, and there was a couple issues today in streaming from a scheduled event. So if this thing doesn't go live in a group here soon, then what we'll do is jump
Well,
off.
it just says right now, happening now. So,
Yeah, that's the event itself, but we should see the
Okay.
video pop up in the stream here soon.
okay. Gotcha. All right. I am keeping an eye out for that. I'm actually monitoring all of it. So, yep. I see the events. I don't see the live stream yet,
Okay.
but you said it may take a minute.
It does take a bit.
Okay. Perfect. So, how's
So I'm excited
everything?
for today. It's going to be a pretty cool thing, right? We're going to be. I saw you did those posts, or you had that video. Is that something that you posted in these groups?
Yes. Yeah, I posted an AI version of my face and my voice to let our members know that we're going to be here right now.
Cool.
So, getting to know some of the AI a little bit, and more people are using it. So, yeah, it's a good thing. I don't know if you notice this logo, if it looks familiar. I don't know if you can see my background.
I can see it. Yes.
Okay.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to prepare because you are a real estate rock star. So I wanted to kind of show out pretty well today.
Well, I appreciate that. Okay, I'm going to refresh the page here. Maybe that'll help.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like we're streaming.
Okay. We are. That is fantastic.
Very cool. Well, welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here.
Very cool. So, yeah, that's fantastic. Benson, can I take us back to our beginning real quick?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. I noticed probably a couple, 3 years ago now, maybe longer, that Benson Juarez was popping up in my notifications in Facebook group after Facebook group. Well, I happen to belong to over 900 of them, so I saw you a lot. And then I wanted to learn more about what's this Privy. And so you and I connected on a couple of occasions. I have access to the tool. I recommend it to people that I know. But I just wanted to thank you for being so gracious with your time and explaining to some of the people in our network and in our groups why this is such an amazing tool. So without any further ado, Benson Juarez, co-founder of Privy, and a young man that I consider a friend.
Well, that's very nice of you to say. And it was an interesting kind of start with us way back when. And, we've done a couple things here and there together, and we've had some success. And I remember when you were living in Florida for a long time, and then you had some stuff going on down there that was exciting, and now you're back in Maryland. So we've been all just kind of transitioning together and evolving as business people, which is really cool. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen now, and we'll get people in here. They've got more people coming into the screen or into the groups, and we'll let them get caught up with us. And I'm going to share my screen. If you could let me know when you see Privy, okay, Tom?
Sure. Okay, there we go.
You got it. You can see my screen, correct?
Yes. Yep. I can see it.
Perfect. Well, you guys, thank you so much for being with us today. I'm with my good friend Tom. I'm Benson Juarez. I'm one of the owners here at Privy, and I've been in the real estate business for over 20 years, believe it or not. And I've done everything from just being like a real estate agent, which I'm currently still licensed in Colorado. I've done fix and flips, buy and holds, wholesales. I've done pretty much a little bit of everything along the way. Not much creative. That's still something that's eluded me, but I haven't put a whole lot of effort into that strategy just yet. But I've seen a lot of different things over the last 20 years. I saw the last downturn. One of the reasons why Privy was built was way back in 2009 and 10. My friend Scott Fall and I were both in the same real estate office, and we were just doing everything manually. Everything was being done manually, and fortunately, there was developments in technology, and there was availability of data, and so Privy was really born out of the problems that a lot of us were having at the same time at that point in the downturn. And it was just getting access to consistent deal flow, having access to the data that we needed to be able to analyze properties effectively, not spending a bunch of time on manual tedious work, really looking for a way to optimize our time, use algorithms, use efficiencies to be able to basically automate many of the stuff that was kind of bogging us down. And the MLS on its own, it's great. And as a licensed agent, I have access to it. And we've got tons of users that are licensed agents that don't use the MLS for their real estate investing activities. The MLS was designed for real estate agents to basically list properties to put them out to the masses. They use those to run comps, but it's still a very manual process. The MLS doesn't have any automation in it. It doesn't have any algorithms. It's still archaic in a sense. There's been some developments over the years, but it doesn't stack up to what we do. So one of the things that sets us apart as Privy is that we are the only platform that has what's called direct to MLS data on scale. And we've gone and negotiated data contracts with many MLSs. It's close to actually 100 markets now where we've got direct to MLS data. And as you're looking at my screen here, it's the areas where you see blue on the map. That's that direct. Now, again, we're the only platform in the world that has that on scale. You might see one of our competitors may have it in one or two markets, but we're the only one that's been able to scale it to this level. Now, why is that important? Well, because we want to use the same data that agents and appraisers use to analyze our properties, to run comps. But what we do with Privy is we bring in that raw data so that we can run algorithms against it, and we can curate that data and make it useful and actionable for real estate investing activities. Again, the MLS is not designed for that. So I'm going to show you today how we can leverage data, analytics, automation to find deeply discounted properties, to find cash flowing properties, to figure out which markets you should invest in. And one of the actually coolest things that comes out of this is when you get the confidence to be able to analyze properties quickly and understand your numbers so well that you don't have any problems pulling the trigger and writing offers on properties that come across your desk. Because if you hesitate even just a little bit, that could be the difference between you getting and losing a deal or just not taking action at all. We know that more than 9 out of 10 people don't make it in this business. And it's because there's so many different obstacles, but a lot of those are self-inflicted wounds. we try to hack everything as entrepreneurs, try to use random websites. We try to, get data from the internet that isn't designed for real estate investing. And we end up making mistakes. And so I believe, and Tom, I'd love your input on this, that investors really have maybe a 5 or 6 month runway to figure it out before they kind of, hand everything in and move on to something else.
Well, yeah, everyone's budget's going to be different. People are sometimes fitting this business in or their real estate business in addition to their full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right. They need good data. They need it quickly so they can create more opportunities and hopefully be able to leave the 9 to 5 if that's what they really choose to do.
Right. And that's a lot of people's goal. It's switching from something that might be a side hustle or, something that's kind of a hobby and somebody has some interest in it, moving from that to maybe a middle portion where you start to actually get some traction. You've closed a couple of deals, to moving on to where you're building a business. And then maybe you start to scale and you add people to the team, and then eventually going to be able to do it full time. And I think that's a lot of people's goal, but it's not everyone's. So, again, one of the powers of Privy is the automation. So we have the ability to set it and forget it, where you can basically describe to the system what your buying criteria is. And the system will go and it'll find opportunities for you that match your specific deal criteria. Or if you're doing something like wholesaling, it can match the criteria of your buyers. If you're a real estate agent, then you can set the filters up to go and find deals that match your client's criteria and have those sent to yourself and your clients automatically. So there's lots of really cool things here we're going to talk about tonight. One of the cool things about Privy is that it finds deals. So a lot of the I guess, quote unquote, competitors of ours out there are mostly data providers. They provide you lists. They will give you information so that you can go and skip trace, and their CRMs, which is like a customer resource manager or relationship manager. And so they're mostly efficiency tools, but almost all of those is not going to go and pluck out a deal that's deeply discounted that matches your specific deal criteria automatically and then email you that opportunity. And we have users that have made millions and millions of dollars by what I'm going to show you guys tonight. And so I encourage you to take some notes. I encourage you to open your mind up to some different approaches, some different paradigms, and just see where the industry is moving. Data now is been democratized, meaning it's available to most, but most data is not actionable. It's spreadsheets and it's graphs and it's stuff that just doesn't really connect with what can help you make a decision quickly. One of the things that we have is a visual user interface, which makes it really easy to understand what you're looking at and then decide whether or not to take action. This right here is our coverage map. So earlier I showed you that we have the direct to MLS in almost 100 markets. That's where the blue is. We do have public record and county record data nationwide. So that's owner information, mortgage information, deed data, assessor's info, as well as off-market leads. So if you're looking for those people that are in foreclosure, or you're looking for a tired landlord or a vacant house, you can build lists inside of Privy. We actually allow you to get up to 10,000 records per month from our platform for just your normal subscription. And we'll talk more about the pricing down the line a bit. And then after that, what we do is we layer on top of that, what's called third-party listing data. So this is data that is aggregated by large companies because there's no national MLS. There's over 600 MLSs, Tom, 600. And so there is no one place you can go to get all that. So we have to go directly and negotiate. But you can get the aggregated one. And that's what you're going to see in like some of our competitors, like the PropStream or Connected Investor or RealFlow. You're going to see that third-party listing data, which is great. I mean, we have it too. It's just that we really wanted to level up the quality of the data, the timeliness of it, the accuracy of it, and the richness of that information, because part of that what we get is photos, and those photos are really insightful, and they can be very informative about like what a property is worth, whether, you know, it's say it's like a beat up house. If you see a price in a street view, like, is that house been flipped? Is that representative of ARV, or you're not really sure? Or if you see a price and then you see a house and it, you know, it's staged and it looks like it's fresh paint and carpet and everything looks new, and that blue film is on the fridge and the stove, like those are the red flags that we can see and be like, oh yeah, that's a flip. So if I can find a house in that same neighborhood that needs work, and that flipped house went for say 400,000, then I know that's my after repair value. So these are the kinds of insightful things you can get from using the platform. All right, so that's our data sources. Now, one of the things that I know about investors, and this is again 20 years in the business, is that we typically look for deals where we live. You know, it's what's convenient, it's what's comfortable, it's what we are familiar with, right? And you know, sometimes we only have a few hours a week to go and try to source leads. So where are you more likely to do it? And it's your own backyard. Now, unfortunately, that is one of the major contributors to why people fail, is because you're looking in areas that maybe aren't conducive to sourcing good deals that have discounts. And so high level, the easiest way to find a deal that has a discount is to find that rundown house that hasn't been updated since the 50s or 60s, or maybe it's been, you know, there's been a flood or there's some other house that it needs some work. You want to find that house that's right next door to the house that was fixed and flipped and sold yesterday. That creates margins. But if you find that rundown house and it's in the neighborhood where everything else is also run down and it hasn't been renovated, well, there won't be any margins because you can't determine the after repair value. The only way you can determine the after repair value of a house that you're evaluating is if you have comps. You need actual sold comparables that an appraiser is going to use to eventually determine that that house that's unrenovated, if it's fixed up and it sells, what will it sell for? The only way to determine that is literally to compare it to a house that was previously fixed up, renovated, and sold. So that's your goal. So how do you find where all those renovated houses are at? And then how can you find the unrenovated house next to that renovated one? And we've built some really cool algorithms and easy buttons into Privy. And over here on the left, we have this toolbar, and it's called Investor Activity. The Investor Activity one that is the most useful for this situation is this one called Fix and Flip. So if I click Fix and Flip, that's actually going to plot on the map where all the fix and flip activity is nationwide. And this here is showing us visually where deals are being done. And so right away, we can see there's a bunch of blue and some numbers, and then you're going to see an absence of blue and numbers. So where you don't see any blue or numbers is where people aren't doing deals. So you don't want to go and look for deals in cities that have no blue, but you also want to stay away from areas that have smaller circles with low numbers, right? And so low numbers, like you can see here, like there's actually some activity here in Nebraska. But every minute you would go, say, looking for a deal in, say, North Platte, Nebraska, where there's a little bit of activity, is a minute you're not looking for a deal in, say, Denver. So we want to increase the chances that our success can be predictable. And the predictability comes from having a strategy where you're thinking ahead and you're beginning with the end in mind. Tom, have you ever read the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey?
I absolutely have. And that's actually one of my favorite habits. But I also like begin with the end in mind, sharpen your saw, be proactive. But yeah, definitely love that one.
It's a really effective one in the real estate business because, again, you're thinking several steps down the line and you think, okay, if I find a house in McCook, Nebraska, which there's barely any activity, is the data that going to be there to help me prove after repair value on a house that I am evaluating? The chances are it's not. But if I go to a place like Kansas City, where there's a lot of activity, then I am able to say, okay, well, there's a lot more investors doing deals out there. The chances of me finding an unrenovated house that's next door to a renovated house is higher. So it's really odds. The odds of you being successful in finding deals is going to be higher in these areas where there's high investor activity. So as we start to move to the East Coast, there's some other markets that look like they're good, like St. Louis. I actually happened to move there and buy some property personally because of the data. Indianapolis is a good market. Chicago. Milwaukee has some decent activity. As we look at the map here, Cleveland is a market, and it's probably the best one in all of Ohio. Pittsburgh has some decent activity. Probably the highest investor activity market in the entire country is Philadelphia right now. Look at that, over 5,500 deals. Now, fortunately for many of our viewers, there is a good amount of activity in Maryland. And most of that is surrounding Baltimore. So you can see here that, there's, a lot of activity right there in Baltimore County. And then down here in like Prince George's County, and as you cross over into DC, there's some activity as well. But there's some holes too. So if you're in Anne Arundel or Montgomery County, like you're going to want to try to avoid those and gravitate to either Prince George's County or Baltimore County, because that's where the activity is, not just Maryland in general. So I'm curious, Tom, about like now that you can see the data, does what you know about your state, does that line up with what the data is telling you?
Absolutely. I mean, I know a number of those areas. I've lived in PG County, Anne Arundel. So, I definitely see the differences. And most of the 300 plus residential deals I've done have been in Baltimore. So there's lots of activity there for sure. And this tool just makes things easier.
It certainly does. And it helps you too to become a local market expert faster than ever before. And this is something that I challenge all of our users with, is that most people are so keyed on leads. I need leads. I need motivated sellers. I need, it's all about lead generation. And sometimes your marketing works, or sometimes your lead gen works, and then you get a deal. And then they don't know what to do with it because they don't know what a deal looks like. They don't know how to comp a property out. They don't know how to run their numbers. And so they get kind of stuck. So it's kind of like the lead generation is something that you want to learn how to do, but really like learning what a deal is in your target market is the thing that you should focus on early on, or if you're starting in another market. But it is something that never stops because this data is live. So this is everything that's sold in the last 12 months. But tomorrow there's going to be a whole new set of houses that were flipped that are going to be sold, or in the next 30 days. So you really want to keep your finger on the pulse of the market. And one easy way to do that is by using our automation and our updates. By going into the filter here, I can click Save Search. And what this will do is it'll email me every time another deal closes that matches my criteria. And that way I can really monitor the area and say, okay, cool. Well, looks like, just based off of this, the hottest area right now is right over here, 233,000. Looks like this is over by, where the zoo is. But I can drill down in here, and this is going to break up, and then I'm going to start to see which neighborhoods. So Edmondson, looks like that has quite a bit of activity. Are you familiar with Edmondson? If you're not familiar with Edmondson, you can see here like there's this niche here of just a bunch of properties that have been fix and flipped recently, even some over here.
I'm sorry.
What we can do here,
I didn't come off of mute, but yeah, 21229. I've done a number of deals in that area. Grantley, Edmondson Avenue, a few other spots.
Yeah, this is a nice little pocket, right? So again, it's going to be a way easier to find that unrenovated home in a neighborhood like this that's right next door to a house that's renovated. And that's the goal. So this house right here actually just closed a few days ago. I'm going to click this property here. And this is going to this is the process that I go through to do my research. Okay, so I'm going to look at this house. It was just fix and flipped. This report right here is called a live comparative market analysis. It's a report that our system is building for every single property in the US 24/7, and it has live updates. So this one is closed recently. We can see here that it has the photos. One of the things that Privy is very good at, and this is in Maryland is not one of those, but there are states that are called non-disclosure states. And what they don't show you is the actual sold price of properties. And they oftentimes won't show you like what number of bedrooms or bathrooms. Photos is always missing. And so it's really hard to do your research. But because we have the direct to MLS in Maryland, and this is Bright MLS, you can see right down here, it has the Bright MLS ID, as well as the agent here. Harold Kelly is the agent that represented the flipper on this one. So we have that information inside of Privy. Below that is the property remarks, property features. If you're a licensed individual already, then you will be able to see the contact information for the agent right inside of here. You also will see the private remarks. If you're unlicensed, we're not able to show that to you. And then the system automatically pulls comps for you. So running comparables and understanding the numbers on a house you're evaluating is another one of those sticking points that a lot of wholesalers and investors and landlords get stuck with, because they typically are just out searching the internet for information. And Zillow is not designed for comping properties. Redfin, even the MLS itself is a very manual process, but we actually have an algorithm that's pulling comparables. It's finding similar properties that are under contract, active, sold in the same areas that have similar property characteristics. So this zone right here is actually half a mile from the center. That's the subject property, the 240. From there to the edge, it's half a mile. Now that's editable. So like, let's say, for example, there were comps that were on the south side of this road right here. I could come up here and click the drawing tool in the upper right-hand corner of the map, and I can draw a new zone. So this is helpful if you're crossing over major roads, or if you're crossing over, rivers or subway lines. Lots of different reasons why you might redraw the zone, but it automatically eliminates anything that's outside the new drawn zone. And it does change down here as well in the table view. So you're only looking at properties that are true comparables. The other thing that we have here is, so we have the different statuses, and these change live. So if this right here, this house that's under contract closes tomorrow, it'll turn red right away. And because that comes directly from the MLS, we'll know about it before the county even knows, sometimes weeks in advance, depending upon how fast the county reports. So if you're not using this direct to MLS data and you're using county or public record or third-party data, then there's a chance you're using data that is no longer relevant. So why not use the best that's available? And that's what this is here.
So real quickly, Benson, as soon as the agent updates the listing and converts it to sold, that will show up here in the system.
It will. Yeah. It updates several times per hour.
So it is real time. When you say real time, it's real time.
Yeah. And it's faster than any place else you're going to find too. Like even, if you were a licensed agent, you may see it, a little bit faster, because that's the actual database where they put that in. But then it sends us those updates regularly. So it's almost real time, I would say. It's about as real time as you're going to get for a party that's not an actual login. And then right here, the purple, this is actually brand new. So within the last couple of months, we partnered up with the largest data provider for rental data in the nation. And now we've added in 130 million rental data comparables. So right here is an example. There's 3 properties here that are comps of the subject where we have the rents. So these rents range from $1,800 to $2,000 per month. And that data is actually sourced from property management companies. So property management companies is the best source of rental data, so that you can make sure that you're actually you're using the correct information. And sometimes we have like really good photos, and this is actually regardless of whether or not we have direct to MLS data in that area, the rental data, the majority of it has pictures. And then the prices here, you can see here that this one is actually rented. So that price of $2,000 a month is the real comp for that. And that's different than what you're going to find in with other rental data providers out there, like the Rental Zestimate. It's a black box, right? They're not showing you the actual comparables. Even Rent-A-Meter, I think they're low, like their free account just gives you an estimate and not the actual comps as well. So we really stepped it up here because we have so many people that use Privy to find rental properties that we wanted to source this, and as well as people who do creative deal structure. So seller financing, subject to those right there, you want to know what those rental comps are so you know what it will rent for. And then if there's a margin there for you based off of what you have that property for. So those are the purple ones. Later, I'll show you how we can take that rental data and use Privy's algorithms to go and find cash flowing properties. Now, below that is the section we call the before and after. Now, this is another thing that's proprietary to Privy. So we actually show you what the house looked like before it was renovated. And then here's the after. So this house was actually purchased from the MLS. You can see the MLS ID here. This is why we have photos. If it was purchased off market, then it would show the street view here. And then right here, you can see they bought this thing for $118,000. That's this number here. And they sold it for $239,000. And then that percentage, 49%, is the percentage of ARV. And so typically when we're measuring how good a deal is, that's the measuring stick we use is what can I buy it for? What can I sell it for? And then what percentage of the price I can buy it for is that of the house, the price I can sell it for. So this one was purchased at 49% of the ARV. Now, depending on the market, right around between 60 and 70% is where properties start to become deals for most people. So you can see here they actually got a pretty good deal on this house, and they didn't have to go and spend any money on marketing. It was right on the MLS. And so there's a misconception out there in the real estate world that you can't find deals on the MLS, and that it couldn't be further from the truth. We did an analytics project about a year ago, and we measured 5 major cities, and anywhere between 60 and 70% of all deals, like you saw that map that we had earlier, Tom, with the blue on it, 60 to 70% of those were coming from the MLS. So if you as an investor or wholesaler or however you categorize yourself are ignoring on-market deals as a source of deal flow, you're automatically hiding half of the opportunities that are out there. And we already know how difficult it is to find leads and get deals done as it is. Why, again, give yourself more self-inflicted wounds? So Privy is the easiest way to find those properties that are on the MLS that you can get a discount because of our investor activity and the way we're able to show you the unrenovated houses that are next door to the ones that were renovated. We have an algorithm that does that for you. So 49%. Now, if you are doing wholesaling, one of the things that you are that's important for you is to find the buyers, right? So cash buyers. And so if we come in here, we can see that the person who bought this house and flipped it was James R. Wilson. Sometimes it's an LLC, sometimes it's an individual, but they bought this thing last year for $118,000. They just sold it. Eventually, this is going to record a final transaction. And this is why I was saying, like, sometimes the county doesn't even record it yet. This one is about 6 days since it was closed, and the county still doesn't know about it. But we know that it sold for $239,000. So James R. Wilson is somebody that you might want to work with as if you're a wholesaler in building your buyers list of people who are actually doing deals. Sometimes you can meet people with a Facebook group, or sometimes you can meet people at the local RIA. But are they really doing deals, or are people just kind of just putting their cards out there and saying, yeah, I'm a buyer. And, some of those people are probably also wholesalers trying to get in the middle of a daisy chain deal. And that's fine too. It's just that if I'm going to wholesale, I want to make sure I know who I'm working with. I don't want to waste a bunch of time with somebody who isn't really doing deals or doesn't have the capability to do deals. So right here, you can see this one, Pena, Rigo Pena, bought this house for $65,000, sold it for $165,000. Again, I'm paying attention to the percentage of ARV they're getting these properties at as well. So if I jump down here to the before and after section, this property was purchased. They must have got a tax sale or an auction. They got it for $14,000. Sold it for 240,000. Tom,
Wow.
that's exciting.
Yeah, I know that block. I've sold a few on the 700 block of Lenore.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, that's 21229 as well.
Hmm.
But yeah,
This one's 21223, and they got this one for 18 grand. That's another cool thing about Baltimore is there's a lot of auctions. I see more auction properties in Baltimore than any other city in the country. So auctions are a good place to look as well. Now with auctions, you do have to have usually a large down payment or earnest money deposit, but that is easily findable if you know your numbers and you can show that there's some good potential margins there. You can get people to JV with you on those. So what I tell people is go back and research the last 10 to 20 properties in any area that you're considering doing deals in or starting to market, and just learn the numbers. Look at what they're buying houses for, what they're selling them for, what percentage of ARV they're buying properties at. What are the sources? We've got a mixture here of on market. This one was an on market deal. They bought at 39% of the ARV and some off market stuff too. So again, it's going to be a mixture. So 39% they bought this one at.
one thing I wanted to add, Benson, the last statistics I remember, over 75% of all residential transactions are closed on the MLS nationwide. Maybe that number's a little higher, but all the gurus and everybody's been teaching, negotiate with the seller. You don't want to bother working with real estate agents. One of the things is a lot of these agents are willing to take any offer, especially if it's a vacant house,
Mm-hmm.
to the seller, and see where they go from there. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, they do it, and usually they're required to present every offer to the seller unless it's explicitly written in the agency agreement for the listing to not take, don't show me anything over a certain price. But I know in Colorado, if that's not defined, then you're supposed to give them every offer, even if it's lowball. So yeah, definitely, don't ignore on market. And another good thing about Privy too is that, when I first started, I told you I moved to St. Louis to do some deals, and before I did that, I'm doing the same process that I did now that I'm showing you now in St. Louis. I went back and researched. I built my buyers list there. One of the other goals that I wanted to do at the beginning of my initial research project was to find an investor-friendly agent, because I never actually intended on moving there. The plan was just to do virtual wholesaling. And so I went in and I looked at all the agents that were representing the flippers, and I found, a handful, and I called, several and talked to talked to some more. And I eventually found an agent who became my eyes and ears and boots on the ground. Her name's Nika. And so that was really comforting to me, because now I have somebody on my team who can be my boots on the ground, who can go and look at properties for me, who can introduce me to inspectors and contractors and title companies. And we found Freedom Title, which is a really investor-friendly title company that I used for several transactions. I found a couple inspectors that would do inspections for me at a reduced price, because I was doing a bunch of them, and we actually created this thing called an investor inspection, which was only like about $100, which a normal one was like between $300 and $500, but it was just like a quick in and out. And so I needed that so that I could really just get their input on if the house needed anything major done to it, like if the foundation was bad, or if the roof was something went on the roof, or any of the major systems. Like I wanted to really understand if it was just like a cosmetic renovation, or if I had to factor in other major expenses like a roof or a foundation, which would change the whole entire cost estimate when I was presenting that to my buyers. And that was really super helpful. And I found that just by looking at these agents just right down here. So you can do that too. Now, again, if you're in Maryland, this it's going to work the same way as if it was, a completely remote market. And I would suggest too, don't get just niched and just in Maryland because that's where you live. I mentioned that there's several markets that are really hot out there that could be better places for you, depending upon what your goals are, like Philadelphia, Chicago, Milwaukee, Indianapolis, St. Louis. Like there's some markets out there that you should consider. And there's nothing wrong with having your line in multiple ponds because, you know, more deal flow. So we've done our market research. I've become a local market expert in the Maryland market faster than I could just by going and doing deals. I remember many years ago, I would, before a platform like Privy, for someone to become an expert in a certain area, like they would have to spend years going and doing deals there, walking the streets, doing the construction, building their team, building their network. And then, you know, as soon as that area dried up, they'd have to go and reestablish themselves in a completely different area or zip code. And so it can be difficult to do and to really understand the numbers and actually understand what a deal is. But with Privy, you can understand what a deal is in your market, quickly become an expert, build your team, find investor-friendly agents, find buyers if you're doing wholesale faster than ever before. And it's all automated. What we also have up here too is we have agents that are Privy users. So this is an agent, Leanne Blanchard. She uses Privy. She's investor friendly, and she's raised her hand and told us that she's looking for clients. So, you know, I can come in here, I can click this, and I won't click it now because it's going to show her phone number and email and stuff, but it will show her contact information, links to her socials, a little bio, and so you can figure out who you want to work with. But we have, depending on the market, sometimes it's dozens of people that are doing business in that area and are looking for clients. So that's a great way of finding people as well.
Wow, that's nice. One of the things I wanted to say is the thing that I like most about Privy is I've watched you grow and evolve, and you really listen to your users so you can give them everything at their fingertips.
Oh yeah, it's important. You know, we have the platform's changed. I mean, I would say we're like in V8 right now. I don't know the exact version that we're on, but we're always adding in new features, new functionality. Our customer success team, when people call in with questions or recommendations, they take all that information, they give it to our development team, and they build up basically like a backlog of requests and suggestions, and then they rank them based off of how often people recommend them. And you know, we can't build everything, but we do listen to our users, and when something starts to come up more often, then that starts to take priority, and then eventually the team will say, okay, all right, let's build that, right? Because we've been hearing that our people want it. I mentioned earlier about being able to pull lists. So one of the things that if you're pulling lists, number one, again, you can get them for Privy, and we don't charge you on a per record basis. We give you 10,000 per month, and you can use those for, you know, doing mailers or skip tracing. We don't do skip tracing natively in Privy, but you can do that on your own, up to 10,000 per month. But what we do that will be superior to what you're doing currently in that process is that you're going to make sure you're pulling those lists from the correct areas. So I could actually isolate this using the drawing tool, or I could make a list of like all the top zip codes, like 21216, 21213, 21229. Like that will help us so that I'm only pulling lists in the specific areas where this investor activity is located. That way, if I get a call on one of my mailing pieces, I know it's in the right area where this investor activity is, and I'll be able to leverage the comparables around it to be able to determine the value of my house, what the ARV is, where my buyers are at. We'll know my buyers are buying there, and I'll also know that I have agents that are experts in those areas. So if I want to pull a list, I just click the filter at the top, and then come down here, and these are the list options that you currently have. But you can do foreclosures. You can stack these lists. So if I wanted a house that was a foreclosure and vacant, I can do that. And I can run the search, and it will find all those for me. And then I export it into a CSV file. We got lots of training on how to do all of that right here in the Learning Center. And then our system, our team does 2 live trainings per week. So it's live Q&A, and you can come in there with what you're currently working on and ask questions, and it's really interactive. So that's one of the things that you do get. So that's how you pull lists. Now, the next thing is, okay, are there any deals that I can buy today? Now, as much as people are really like, oh my God, we want to find motivated sellers, right? Motivated sellers. There's no one more motivated to sell a house than somebody who puts their house on the market. They've made the decision, they've raised their hand, they said, I want to sell my house. And then they also tell us what price they want to sell it for. So we don't have to go and, market to them, get them in our queue, cold call them, skip trace them, maybe get them on the phone. Maybe you get one person on the phone every couple of days, and then you have to convince them to sell you their house, number one. And then you have to convince them to sell you their house at a price where everybody wins, which is another level of complexity. So the chances of getting deals under contract by using that strategy alone is very rare. But with on market, all you got to do is find the unrenovated house where the seller has said, I want to sell it. That's next door to the house that's renovated. Now, do both, right? It's just that there's low hanging fruit with on market. So if you like the off market game and you're good on the phone and you're good at sales and you have a good CRM and your follow up is good and you don't let those leads slip through the cracks, you created a proper pipeline so you're not losing those leads, then for sure do it. But if you're not good at those things, then what you can do is you can use our investor activity. So if I come down here and I click this button, find similar active deals, this is actually patent pending. It takes all of those closed deals that were on the map and it uses those as a model for what a successful deal looks like, and then it goes and it finds it for you. So I'm actually going to adjust the filter slightly because the default button where I click that is set to 75% ARV or lower. But based off of what I know about Baltimore, and you tell me if this makes sense, you think 60% is a good number between 0 and 60?
Well, obviously, I think that's a great number, but you can still make money at 70 or 75, depending on the street and the block, because Baltimore is block by block. Sometimes you can even create your own comps, but we don't like to speculate. But
okay,
yeah,
let's set this to 65. Okay, we'll do
65,
64%.
Perfect. Yep.
And then let's say, for example, as well, maybe you got a loan, you got qualified for a hard money loan. Or maybe you talk to a buyer if you're a wholesaler and they tell you what their maximum purchase price is. You can basically build your buy box right into the system here. So let's say we got qualified for a mortgage up to $220,000, and then maybe we want at least a 2-bedroom, 2-bath house, and where it's okay with we'll take some row homes, we'll take some single family detached. 64%. So we can build this. And then once we build this in here, we can save it. And the system will monitor these areas for us. And it will email us whenever the system finds a deal that matches our criteria. And then it comes right to our inbox with a link. And then you can click the link and it'll take you right to that report, the comparative market analysis takes you right to that report with the most up-to-date comparables. So you can quickly analyze it and decide if it's something you want to make a move on. So you just click save search, give it a name, and then you choose the frequency and you can get updates up to every hour. So if you've got a 9-to-5 job or you got a family, lots of responsibilities, you don't have to be sitting in front of your computer all day. Once the searches are saved, then at that point, you're just checking your email. You got a new email from Privy. Cool, I got a deal. Let's look at it. You pop it up on your phone. We've got a mobile optimized version of Privy. You can use it on your tablet, desktop, laptop. It's up to you. So let's look at a couple of these properties. Actually, I didn't run it. So let's go to 65%, 220. Okay, so let's go ahead and run that. And so here's a property that just came on the market a couple days ago. Well, yesterday, it looks like. It's 1915 Baker Street. If we click that, it's going to get us into the house. So it's a 3-1. Looks like it's a house that's like in the middle of a construction project. So this is something where somebody started this, ran out of money, or realized that they were in way over their head, and are like, we just need to get out of this thing. So they put some work into it. You got that cool rock wall. Oh my God, that would be such a huge project. I don't know if you've ever installed that kind of rock before, but it's a lot of work. You put it in like tile, but it's still a lot.
Yeah.
So we come down here. Let's look at the comparables, and we can see this house here is for sale for $140,000, and we have two houses that were flipped that are right in the same area. This one was fixed and flipped and sold for $235,000. This one was fixed and flipped and sold for $227,000. So remember earlier I said you want to find the unrenovated house that's next door to the renovated house. So we have two houses here that were flipped that will help us to prove after repair value on this house, and it does the math for us. So this right here is essentially 140. So 140 is 60% of 235. 140 is 62% of 227. So this house, it matches our search criteria. Remember, we set it to 65% or lower, and we wanted it less than 220,000. So this property matches that. So we didn't have to cold call or skip trace. You didn't have to be a salesperson. You didn't have to close somebody over the phone or sit at someone's kitchen table who's in foreclosure and have that uncomfortable conversation about them losing their house. This is simply just using the reverse RA strategy. Make sure you're laser targeted and you're looking in the proper areas where investor activity is located, then finding that unrenovated house that's next door to the renovated house, and then the numbers just automatically make sense. So we didn't have to go in and look at a bunch of different houses. Let's look at another one here. This one's $120,000. It's a 3.2, 1,324 square feet. Looks definitely ripe for a renovation. And if I scroll down to the comparables, this house is in the same neighborhood as 3 flips. And if I sort by distance, the closest house is only 0.08 miles away. It's right around the corner on Landvale Street. Sold for $225,000. So again, our algorithms are automatically pulling comps on this. So it's already gotten rid of the houses that aren't similar. Too big, too small, too far away, different stories, different property type. These are both attached houses. So this house you can buy for $120,000. This closest one sold for $225,000. So our house this is without even asking for a discount. We don't have to go in and lowball. And this is one of the things that people don't like about on-market deals. And they're the ones that they're not using Privy. They're just writing offers, and they'll say, okay, the house is listed for $200,000. We're going to come in 20% less automatically. Well, you don't have to come in 20% less if the house is listed at 53% of the ARV. So you can legitimately make offers, whether you're going to wholesale or fix and flip or keep the house as a rental, close to asking price, and still have deeply discounted properties. But this only works, you guys, if you're looking in the right area, if you're in that area where all these flips are located. These flips are the ones that turn this house into a deal. It's not what they bought it for. So they bought it for $52,000, $38,000, $55,000. If these houses weren't flipped, then this house would not be a deal because there aren't comps that are going to create that margin. If you're not using this strategy right now in your business, I guarantee you it's affecting your ability to understand what the after repair value is, because you literally can't determine after repair value on a house unless you have flipped comps. And if you don't know what the after repair value is, then you're certainly not going to know what to offer in the house. And if you are finding houses that are run down and you're like, well, I want to make an offer on this, and you don't have these flipped comps, well, you have to submit to make your numbers work to get it at, say, 65% of the ARV. You have to use unrenovated houses as those comps. So if all the other unrenovated houses in this neighborhood are selling for, say, 120 to 150, even if it's 150, then we have to submit an offer that is, $80,000, right? Something like that. That's a lowball offer. That's when those people who have had the bad experiences with on-market deals, that's why. It's because they're lowballing the list price. But if you have after repair values that are higher, that pulls your offer up, and you can submit more reasonable offers to have a higher chance of being accepted. This isn't just work with on-market. That same rule applies to off-market too, because if you have an off-market house and they go to Zillow and they think their house is worth $120,000, and you come in at 80, because you have to have the numbers make sense because you don't have flipped houses in the neighborhood, well, they're going to tell you to get the heck out off their land, right? So this strategy of find the unrenovated house works for both off market and on market. You want those renovated houses. That's what the goal is. And then you can find the unrenovated ones that make the numbers work. So this one looks like a deal. Tom, do you think this one is something that you would write an offer on?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Probably
So
lowball it a little bit, but yeah.
You could. And the more you go down, the chances of you getting the deal under contract are lower, right? So it's up to you which you come in at. But if you use this strategy, you can make an offer that's more reasonable, that has a higher chance of being accepted. But this might be one of those neighborhoods where you need to get it at 40% for the numbers to work. I'm not sure what number you're thinking, but you told me earlier 70, 75%. This is 20% below that.
Well, at the same time, I always look at the days on market, and the good news is for myself and other people in the DMV, I know a lot of the agents. So, while they can't give me what the offer price is, I can take them at their word if they say you're nuts,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but with this one here on Landvale Street, that one sold recently. It's a good comp. If I wanted to write an offer on this, then I could actually go directly to the listing agent. I would go to either Stuart, Kyle, Greenwell, or maybe I found an investor-friendly agent I talked to prior and someone who wants to be my fiduciary and work with me. And I would just click share, and I would send this to my agent, like Nika. I just put her email here, and then I would come in here. It automatically populates the message with the property address and a link to this CMA here, so that me and the person I'm sending to are speaking the same language. Some of the other use cases where you might share this is like you're going to send it to your lender to see how much they would lend on this house, or maybe you're a wholesaler and you got the deal under contract and now you want to market it. Well, you can actually send these links to your buyers list so they can see the comps, and then you can eliminate any comparables that don't support the price you're going for. And so if you want to use all of these high prices to prove your value, then anything that's lower you can just get rid of, like this one here. These, maybe you don't want to show rental comps. It's up to you. It's all editable. And then once you get this looking the way you want it and you send it to them, then they're only going to see what you allowed them to see. It won't see the comps that you hit. But this one's another great deal. So that's 2516 Calverton Heights. Looks like it's right around 55% of the after repair value at asking price. If you want to get it lower than 120, then you can possibly bring that down below 50%. But people would want this house. This would be a good property, and there's rentals in the neighborhood, so we can see what the rental rates are. This might make a good BRRRR property. We buy it, turn it into a rental. This one right here, which is only 0.07 miles away, went for $1,400 a month. You're going to have to put some money into this house to get it up there, but that almost matches the 1% rule. But this one's not even in that great a shape. This is the rental comp. So that's how simple it can be to find these deals, you guys. So I showed you how to save those searches, how you can get those deals sent to you automatically. If you want to run comps on any property, you just type the address right in here to the search bar, or you can pull out your mobile device if you're in the field, open up Privy, and just enter the address, and it will go and pull comps for you, build a comparative market analysis. If you want to find rental properties, the cash flow, then you can use our new long-term rental feature. Over here to the right, you click long-term rentals, and it gives you 4 different ways of measuring cash flow: cap rates, cash on cash return, annualized return, and gross yield. Probably the most common are these 2 up here. And there's a little description here on what those mean, so you're not wondering. But the annualized return is the one that's going to take into account like appreciation and money you put down on the house and construction costs. And so what you can do is you can adjust this and say, let's say I wanted to get a property at a, say, 10% cap rate. And so everything else is applied here, less than 200,000. I can come in here, I can click this, and this is going to run the cash flow analysis, and lo and behold, look at this. There's the Calverton house. This house is going to have between an 8 and 10% cap rate, or between a 16 and 28% annualized return. I click that property here. I can scroll down, and I can see there's the range there based off of the comparables. And I can also see, if I come all the way down here to the bottom, here's all the assumptions. So it tells us how much the down payment is, what the expected operating costs are, expenses. Everything is right down here. So you can see and make any adjustments as necessary. But that's how simple it is to find these cash flowing properties. And you could have these, there's some areas where you just can't make the numbers work, and it's a lot of times it's on the coasts, but it really depends. But this is another really fast way of finding rental properties to put in your portfolio. And I know for a lot of people who start off in this business, maybe they start off as doing wholesale deals because they want to create some money that they can put in their business and start to do some things. But then after that, the priorities sometimes shift to, well, boy, I want to take some of that cash I'm making and I want to use it as a down payment for a rental property, because we know that the real wealth building comes from building long-term assets, passively cash flowing properties that can pay you over time and appreciate and then give you all the benefits that you get with rental properties, like depreciation, tax write-offs, the appreciation, areas where there's lots of investor activity where people are flipping. Those areas appreciate at a higher rate than properties that are in areas where people aren't flipping. So you get the best of all worlds here when you use the platform for finding the properties that you can do quick turns on with a wholesale deal, fix and flip, and then also being able to see the exact areas you should be going, and then using our tools to be able to find these cash flowing properties. And there's a bunch here. A bunch. Look at this one, 78 grand. So I'm going to open it up to some questions here, but what I do want to do is give you guys an opportunity to get signed up. We're going to put some links in the show notes, and we're going to, let's see, Tom, you disappeared there.
Oh, I'm still here.
Okay,
I'm still here.
There you are. Awesome. So let me give you guys this, and I'll put this in the group. So you're going to use the promo code T as in V, P as in people, C as in conductor, TPC66 as your promo code. Okay, so I'll put that in the show notes there, but you want to make sure you use that promo code. So with that promo code, we're going to take either 20% off of your first month, and then after that, you'll pay regular pricing. Our regular pricing is $149 per month. Or if you're really dialed in and you want to commit to your success and you're looking to do everything the right way, then subscribe to the annual plan, and we'll take 30% off of the annual plan. So that brings that price all the way down to $1,252 for the year. And that also does come with, like I said, the free training and help and support from our team as well.
Fantastic.
So Tom, while I'm putting this link there in the group, any kind of closing thoughts or comments?
Well, again, one of the things I mentioned earlier is that you keep on adapting and growing to the technology and to the demand of the marketplace. So the one thing I wanted to thank you again, not only for your time, but for creating a tool that can make businesses more profitable faster, so people who are doing it part-time can transfer and possibly go full-time, and people who are doing it full-time can scale up to the higher level. So thank you for everything. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Let's see here. I don't see any questions, but this is an interesting approach here because we're streaming into different groups.
Right.
So I don't know if the people actually have the ability to ask questions with this format, but I just posted this in the 3 groups that we're streaming to.
Perfect. I think that's all we need.
Awesome. All right, Tom. Well, thank you again for having me. I'm just grateful. We had a good time showing everyone the software, the updates. There's like I said, we have several new things that we've released most recently, and that's the rental data.
Right. I like it.
And then we also just released, the deal finding capability there for cash flowing properties, and there's more to come.
Right. Okay. Great. Well, thank you again, and I get to see you on Sunday, so I'll see you in Tampa.
See you in Tampa.
All right.
Bye, everyone. Have a great
Right.
night.